Well, good morning, everyone. It is wonderful to be with you this morning. I am so excited and happy to be the first speaker in this wonderful event. And of course, NDBID is a wonderful organization that I can see doing great things and will continue to do great things. So to have been invited to come and speak as a trainer today is wonderful to me. We will be interacting today, so it would be nice if we are in a setting where we can interact with our videos on and be ready to talk if we need to, or we can communicate on the chat, and we'll be using different mediums to be able to interact together. So you also need to go to Slido, for example, as we go on in a few minutes. So let's be ready to interact. I'd love to be talking to faces rather than empty names. So if you can put on your video, it makes it for a better training experience. Even though we are doing this on Zoom, we want to imagine ourselves that we are in a room together, face to face. It just makes it more involving for everybody. So thank you for those who have already done that. So as you've already said, my name is Andrea Onduku, and today we are talking about mental health awareness. Mental health awareness. So we are going to be learning what is mental health. How do we cultivate a healthy mind? So that's what we are going to be doing today. As was said as well, I am coming on behalf of Matters of the Heart, which provides counseling and mentoring. We provide training to individuals and organizations on the topics of emotional intelligence, resilience, and well-being strategies, oral, written, and relational communication skills. So that's who Matters of the Heart is. I want us to go to, if we can, to go to slido.com and put in the event code is HOPE. And we are answering the question, what do you hope you will learn today? I'm going to put the link so that if you want to, you can just click straight on the link, and that will take you to Slido. So I've put that in the chat. As you respond, it's going to come up on the screen. So this is just, before I tell you what we are doing today, I want to know, what do you hope you will learn today, so that we make sure as we go along, we are, dealing with the topics that are important to you all. So if you wouldn't mind, we can go to slido.com. The event code is HOPE, or you can just click on that link and that will take you there. As soon as you start putting your responses in, we are all going to see them come up on the screen. So I'll give you a moment to do that. So when you get there, you will see that, yep, someone has got it there. You will see there are 3 different live polls. So you will see question and answer. That's for later. You will see live polls. There are 3. You're going to pick on the first one. What do you hope you will learn today? And then you type your response. Are we doing that? Only one person. So all of us, we don't want to learn anything today. Let's be putting it there, please. And if you are having any problem with negotiating the sites, you can unmute and just let me know. Yep. How to improve mental health. Wonderful.
Yep.
I'll give you another couple of minutes to put some other things there of what you hoped you will learn today. So what topics within mental health are you interested in? Is there particular areas? Maybe is there particular like words that you've heard in the past you don't understand? Maybe depression, anxiety. Is it, in the workplace? Is it in personal life? These are some of the things. Are we talking more of workplace? Are we talking of family? Are we talking about how to help others? Are we talking about how to help ourselves? So I've got here mental health balance. Good. Okay. So how many are we? We are about 11, are we? So we should be having 11 responses on there. All right. One more minute for that. Then I'm going to move on. All right. So how to improve mental health and mental health balance and hope. We are all on that. All right. I'm going to move on for now. So we have a mental health quiz now. Now, I did mention that today is going to be interactive, where it's not just me talking, because that's not how we learn. So mental health quiz. So I want you to put in the chat this time. That should be a bit easier than going to Slido. Let's put in the chat the answers. So number one, how many people in the UK will experience a mental health problem every year? Is it A, 1 in 4, B, 1 in 8, C, 1 in 2? So in the chat, you're going to be putting either A, B, or C. Okay, I have a vote for A. Anyone else? 2 for A. So we're saying 1 in 4. Anyone with a contrary view? Okay, so I will tell you the answer is A, 1 in 4. So that is how many people in the UK. So, we can see that if that's a quarter. If we turn that into a quarter, that is basically a quarter of the population will experience a mental health problem. When it says mental health problem, we are talking more of mental illness. We're going to define those terms later. All right. So the next question, what proportion of people with mental health problems experience stigma? Is it A, 10%, B, 50%, or C, 90%? So you can put in the chat A, B, or C. What proportion of people experience stigma because of mental illness? Okay, we have got B, we have got A. Any other contrary? That's great. That's from, so Harry says B, John says A. All right. Well, you'll be surprised to know that it's actually C, 90%. So this is an overwhelming majority of people with mental health problems report experiencing stigma. There was actually a survey carried out by Time to Change called Stigma's Shout. And 9 in 10 people reported that stigma and discrimination had a negative impact in their education, in their work, even in receiving medical treatment and in their personal lives. So this is why we are dealing with this kind of topic today, because there's such a lack of understanding around what mental health is and what mental illness is, that even to receive medical treatment, there is stigma attached to it. We may need to just mute those that are with background noise. So moving on to number 3. And there's just 5 questions. So number 3, how long do the majority of people with a mental health problem wait before telling their closest family and friends about it? So how long do you think people wait? A, 2 months, B, 7 months, or C, over a year? So you put in the chat A, B, or C. Okay, we have wonderful. We have NDBID says C, John says C, Kate says C, and you are correct. And that is, quite an issue. So those that are closest, this is not talking about telling the world. This is talking about even my spouse, my mother, my father, my aunt, my closest friend. I will not tell them what is going on with me for more than a year. And that reflects the stigma that we talked about before. So a Time to Change survey showed that 60% of people waited over a year to tell the people closest to them about it because of the stigma attached to it. Okay, the next one. The incidence of depression in minority ethnic groups has been found to be how much higher than in the white population? Is it A, 20%, B, 40%, C, 60%? We have Tare says C, which is 60%. Any other views? Yep, we have NDBID says C. Any other contrary thoughts? And John says B, 40%. Okay, well, it is actually C, which is 60%. Now, to me, that is a shocking statistic that 60%, it's 60% higher. So the incidence of depression is 60% higher in minority ethnic groups. This is a sad statistic, and we'll be looking at this more in detail today. Number 5, what proportion of people with mental health problems believe that workplace stress contributed to their illness? A, 1 in 5, B, 1 in 3, C, 2 in 3. So what proportion of people believe that workplace stress contributed to their illness? I've got Tare says A, Kate says A, NDBID says C. This is good. We are getting to, I'm looking for what was, so it was actually C, 2 in 3. 2 in 3. That is quite shocking. So 2 in every 3 of people who have mental health problems attribute it to the stress in their workplace. So for those of us that are here on this, and perhaps we are supervisors, managers, we have responsibilities in our workplaces. This is something that a statistic that we need to take on board, that of those in our organization that have mental health problems, as many as 2 in 3 of them are saying that it's workplace stress. So how are we going to make the workplace a better environment? And we'll be talking about some of this later. So 2/3 of people believe that long hours, unrealistic workloads, or bad management either caused or exasperated their condition. All right. So it's time for us to go back to Slido. I'm going to give you a break after this. Don't worry. I'm going to talk to you for some time, and your fingers are going to have a rest. But I'm just trying to set the ground as to what we already know, so that we can explain where we're going. So I want you to go back to Slido and now click on what is mental health, and put your definition of what is mental health. And you can enter as many words as you want. I am just thinking to put the direct link back in the chat. All right, the link is there. You can click on that. So we're going to ask you, what is mental health? What words? Just spit out words of what you think mental health is. And you can just put one word. You don't need to write a sentence. You can just put one word. You can put 2 words. And as we said before, we'll see them coming up on the screen. So what is mental health? So you can click on the link in the chats and just start putting in those words. I just want to be seeing just one word. What is mental health? It's sanity. Good one. State of mind, stress. Good. Any more? I'll just give you a minute for that. Oh. Any more thoughts? Stress, sanity, state of mind. So someone else has said state of mind. This is a word cloud. So when more people say one particular thing, it will come out bigger. That's why it's really good. So you've got stress, anxiety, overall well-being, sanity, state of mind. Can see another one coming in. A person's condition. Good. All right, so you can see within that, there are two different, there's mental stability. So you can see there that among the definitions that we have, some of them are positive and some are negative. So we've got mental stability, we've got well-being, we've got sanity, we've got well-being again, state of mind. A couple of people said anxiety and stress. So the last question I'm going to ask you before I start talking, giving you a bit of a rest with your fingers, unless you're taking notes, is, so what is mental illness? So if we've said that mental health is maybe anxiety and stress, what is mental illness? Okay, I believe person means a biological condition. Yeah. What is mental illness? And you can be honest. There's no, I know that we are all going to respect each other. I believe those are the ground rules we're setting. So we can be free to say anything. Psychological condition. It's a disorder. Good. A disorder in mental well-being. Good. So we've got mental instability. So we had said mental health was mental stability. So mental illness is mental instability. Good. Low mood, right? Okay, so just the last couple and then we move on. Change in emotions. Good. All right, so you have done very well. These are all, correct answers in one way or another. So I'm going to go on now to talk about some definitions of mental health. Some definitions of mental health. So according to the World Health Organization, mental health is defined as a state of well-being in which the individual realizes his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. So if you look at that, you can see about 3 different things in one. So in order for you to be termed mentally healthy, you need to be able to realize your own abilities, cope with the normal stresses of life, work productively, and contribute to society. That is what the definition is. Now, if you use this definition, you can see why as many as 1 in 4 are said not to be mentally healthy. Because how many people, and we can look at, I can look at myself, you can look at yourself as to where you are on the scale of that definition. So we are beginning to see that maybe mental health is not, it's more than what we thought it was. So in other words, what is the extent to which you can function well? What is the extent to which you can cope with the stresses of life? When it says the normal stresses of life, that means we're not talking about, the big stressors. At the moment, we are going through a pandemic called COVID-19. That's what this project is all about. It's about looking at different ways to cope with the crisis of COVID-19. But we're talking about normal stresses of life at this point. So if what extent can you cope with the normal stresses of life? And I know that I can see that this has been recorded, and I'm sure that recording might be sent out to all those that registered later. And so you can, but if you want to, you can screenshot that, you can take notes so that you remember this, because you'll be able to pass this on to others in your circles. Another definition by Mind. Mind is a mental health charity. And their definition is that good mental health means being generally able to think, feel, and react in the ways that you need to and want to live your life. Okay, so good mental health means being able to think, feel, and react in the way you want to, basically. But if you go through a period of poor mental health, you might find the ways you're frequently thinking, feeling, or reacting becomes difficult or even impossible to cope with. And this can feel just as bad as a physical illness or even worse. So, from those two definitions, I want us to do another exercise. And that will be that for some time while I continue to give some clarity on issues. But this exercise, I want you to be able to go to Jamboard. I'm going to just put the link for you. Just a moment. I'll put this link in the chat. If you can click on this. Of course, if we were meeting physically, what we would do is we would have a big flip chart at the front, and I just ask you to shout out answers, and we'll be writing them on the flip chart. So this is the equivalent to a flip chart, and I think I can see some like writing on top. It still says stress on top of the PowerPoint slide, so the host might need to just clear the annotation there. Maybe just be working on that from the technical end. But for the rest of us, if we can click on that link, and when we are there, what you do is you can begin to draw over some Post-it notes. And if you have any problem, do please let me know. I think it's send view only. Let me see if this is going to work. I think when you click on that link, it is taking you to view only. Can you put in the chat on your side? Does it say view only? I wonder how. Can you just put in the chat whether it says view only? This is where we wish we were in face-to-face with a flip chart, isn't it? From what I'm saying, because I deliberately didn't sign in so I would see what you're seeing. Okay. So when you go there, is it same view only? Can you do anything there? Just let me know. If not, then you can just write in the chat instead. Okay, I'm not hearing from you. So I think I will leave it. Let's just put in the chat. So the idea of this question is, if you have good mental well-being, what are some of the things that you are able to do based on the definitions, the two definitions that we just went through? If an individual has a good mental well-being, what should that person be able to do? And the example I have there is the person should be able to feel engaged with the world. So let me know in the chat, what are the other things that someone who has good mental health should be able to be doing? Yeah, okay, yeah, someone said view only. Yeah, so let's leave the Jamboard we'll sort that out by the next training we have on the 17th. So positive interaction, good. So someone who has good mental well-being, there should be positive interaction. What else should such a person be able to do? Keep putting it in the chat. Yes, Tare said he or she should be able to think and act freely. Very great. So if someone has good mental well-being, they should be able to think and act freely, have positive interaction. Any other ideas before I add some of my own to it? And as I said, be free to put in the chat. Coordinate themselves without supervision. Coordinate themselves without supervision. I like the word coordinate themselves. That ties in very well with the definition. Behave rationally. Good. Wonderful. Okay, so I'm going to add some of my own to that. What does good mental health look like? If you have good mental well-being, you are able to recognize the good in yourself. So this was mentioned in the WHO definition, which said that you should be able to recognize the good in yourself, such as your positive attributes and achievements you have made. All right. Number 2, you should be able to feel and express a range of emotions, which ties in with what we heard in the chat about being able to think and act freely. We should feel engaged with the world around us. We should live and work productively. Thank you. The word stress has been removed. That's wonderful. We should be able to cope with the stresses of daily life and manage times of change and uncertainty. Very good. So what I want to explain to us at the moment is, because sometimes, for me, I remember years ago when I studied psychology in university, I studied counseling and psychology. And when I was, they gave us a handbook about this size, this thickness, full of mental health disorders or mental illnesses. And when you start reading through it, you can almost diagnose yourself with several of those things because you begin to see certain symptoms. So as we've been looking through the definitions of mental health and of mental illness, maybe we're starting to reflect that, it seems maybe maybe there's something I need to worry about, or maybe someone around me, maybe I need to worry about them. But I want you to see this continuum. And this continuum, you have at one side mentally well, you have the other far side, this distance apart, mentally unwell. So at the beginning, I was very purposeful in getting us to write down what we think mental health is and what we think mental illness is. Because very oftentimes what I see when I speak in different environments is that there's a confusion about which is which. So, and even in doing some research, I will even come across videos online that will say, oh, this person has mental health. They are not very well. Now, if I tell you that this person has mental health, that shouldn't mean that they are ill. That means they are well. Okay, so we are, but the thing is that we are on a continuum of mental health. So we all have mental health. Everybody, you can't say this person has mental health. So everybody has mental health. That's the first thing. Just like everybody has physical health, everybody has mental health. And so there is a particular day that you wake up and you don't feel okay. You have low mood. You are feeling that on that particular day, you cannot cope with the stresses of life in that day. You just want to bury your head back into your duvet. This does not mean that you are mentally unwell. Now, let me put it another way. If I wake up in the morning and I have a runny nose and a bit of a headache, and I feel like today I want to stay in my bed, it doesn't mean I have a serious condition that I need to go and see the doctor. It just means that I need some rest, right? So it's the same with our mental health. So we need to be able to take care of our mental health so that we stay on the continuum closer to being mentally well than being mentally unwell. Okay, so when we talk about this whole idea of mental health, let us not think of only the disorders. Let us think about being able to keep ourselves in that definition of being able to know ourselves, being able to cope with stress, being able to function and contribute to society. That is our goal and that is our aim. I love the definition just put by Tare says ability to express and manage a range of positive and negative emotions, being able to form and maintain good relationships with other people. That is spot on. That is what somebody that is mentally well should be able to do. But I just want to encourage us that if you are having some of the symptoms that we talk about as we go along, remember this continuum. And we're going to give you all the help and advice as we go along of how you can support yourself and those around you. So moving on, I want us to watch this short video, and it will just kind of sum up everything I've said, because the reason for showing a video is that people learn in different ways. Some people learn through the practical exercises we've done. Some people learn through the talking I'm doing. Some people learn with the video. So I want to be able to cover all the different bases. So it's just about 3 minutes, 4 minutes. Great. So, you can see how that video was an overview and really very helpful. And excuse me, it said we should get help early. So that is what really came out of that. And for those of us that are parents, the example given there was very useful because it talked about how a child was struggling with so much demands of homework, schoolwork, of even different culture, understanding a different culture at school. There may even be bullying in the mix, and lots of different things that are going on. And how are we going to help our children to be able to cope with these stresses of life? We need to be able to make sure that the talking is going on. For me, I'm such a believer in talking therapy. Talking is so important, on that mental health continuum that we showed at the beginning. If we want to stay mentally well and we don't want to go too much the other way, getting help early and talking about it. But because of the stigma attached to it, we want to keep quiet about it. We may be not feeling okay physically. In just the same way, I know of people that when they feel ill physically, the fear of what's wrong with me actually can stop them from going to the doctor. And so in terms of mental health as well, when someone is feeling that they're not able to cope the way they used to, they may have a fear of, what if I go to the doctor, they tell me I have something, and what is going to be the end of me? So the awareness we are raising today is obviously, it's not a counseling session. So it's just to let us know that all of this information, and then we'll be able to act on it and get help early. And, for a lot of people that joined recently, we are talking about mental health awareness. And we also mentioned that if you wouldn't mind, and you can, you could have on your video so that we have a more interactive experience as we're going along, just as if we were face to face. Even just taking time out and being part of a training like this can actually be a benefit to our mental health. And we will be having a short break in about 12 minutes time, at 10 to 11 until 11. And at some point before we finish, we'll have time for question and answer. So if you have questions about what's being said, keep that in mind. If you open Slido earlier, even during the tea break, you can be putting some questions in there under the question and answer place in Slido. And then that way, if you want to be anonymous, if you want to ask questions, you can just unmute and ask at the question and answer section. Or if you want to ask anonymously, you can go to Slido. The event code, if you can't find it in the chat now, is HOPE. So yeah. All right. So continuing on, we want to look at, why does mental health matter? Why is there a topic such as this on the NDPID training? Well, because of this, we can look at this hierarchy of needs. So we can see at the bottom there, physiological needs. Just one second. Yes, we can see at the bottom is physiological needs, which is our physical needs, which is our need for air, for water, for food, for shelter, for clothing, for reproduction. Now, when we look at this hierarchy of needs, we can see that as human beings, we are actually spending most of our time only attending to the needs on the bottom two components, which is physiological needs, which is our physical needs, and our safety needs. So we go to work to make sure that we have food to eat, we have a house to live in, and we look after our security. So we make sure that, our house is secure. And those are the main two things that we invest all of our time into. But for us to be where we need to be, according to that WHO definition of being able to know ourselves, know our abilities, be all that we are meant to be, and be contributing to society, we need to get to the top of this hierarchy of needs, which is actually self-actualization. And the only way we get there is by, yes, paying attention to the physiological needs, paying attention to the safety needs, but also investing in our relationships, which is the love and belonging aspect of it. We need people to talk to. We were created relationally. We need to talk to one another. But because of stigma attached to these things, we don't talk, and we need to talk. If that's the only thing that you learned from this session today, is to make your workplace an environment where everyone has a forum to talk about when things are not okay, or making your family a place where talking can take place. Love and belonging is very important. Then esteem is respect, self-esteem, how you see yourself, your strengths. So it's very important for us to be able to get to self-actualization is becoming all that we are meant to be. That is when we feel fulfilled, we feel strong, we feel in control, we are doing all that we know that we want to be doing. But you can see the steps that you need to take. Now, unfortunately, in many communities, we are stuck at the bottom because there just simply isn't enough time or resources to attend to the other things. If I don't have food to eat, then I'm not going to be bothered about self-esteem and becoming all I want to be. I just want food on the table. And you see, that is where many people are at. And, just working hard, working, just to put food on the table, working 3 jobs, just to put food on the table. And there's no attention to the other things. But even in that situation, even somebody that's maybe on this meeting now that is in such a position, or someone in such a position, even in that, the person needs to attend to the other things. Because gradually, if you don't attend to relationships or attend to yourself, eventually, even the job that you are doing, if you crash and burn, you won't be able to do that job. And then there will definitely be no food on the table. So even in the midst of the busyness, in the midst of the desire to just put food on the table to make sure my family are secure, we need to attend to these other things. It's very, very important. So that is why mental health matters. We can't get to the top if we don't attend to the steps in between. So now moving on, in the next, I believe, 12 minutes, we want to talk a little bit about some mental health illnesses and just give them some definition before we go to our break. So it's good for us to know that mental health problems can affect any of us, irrespective of age, personality, or background. There is no one that can say it's not going to happen to me, because, just like our bodies, our physical health, from time to time, it needs attention. So does our mental health. They include a wide range of experiences and can affect the way people think, feel, or behave. They can appear as a result of experiences in both our personal and working lives, or they can come about without any easily identifiable cause. Some problems may be mild or moderate, which is what I said. The person is going to be not completely mentally well, somewhere along the continuum. For others, they are at the far end of the continuum, and that is where they will need some intervention of treatment and so on. But at the lower end of that, there are things that we can do ourselves, which we'll talk about before we finish, that can improve our mental health and prevent us from getting to where it is a severe form needing treatment. So what are some of the types of mental illness? The first one up there we see is anxiety. Anxiety is what we feel when we are worried, tense, afraid, particularly about things that are about to happen. And it can actually be very debilitating. So, those of us that are very strong-minded might say, oh, they should just stop worrying. They should just get on with it. Is it not the same problems we are all facing? This is how we talk. And we just want people to be strong. But our just like our bodies react differently to different things, our minds react differently to different things. It's not a weakness. It is just the way that person has been created. So, telling someone to just get on with it and stop bothering is not going to work for that person. Occasional anxiety, of course, is what we all experience. It's normal. But if your feelings are very strong, last for a long time, they can be overwhelming. And you might also then experience physical symptoms such as sleep problems or panic attacks. Panic attacks is where you feel like you can't breathe. And, people actually say they think they're having a heart attack, but it is a panic attack. If it goes further, you may be diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, such as generalized anxiety disorder, social anxiety, panic disorder, or PTSD. And it's also possible to experience problems with anxiety without a specific diagnosis. Depression would be the next on the list. It's a feeling of low mood that lasts for a long time. Okay, so it's not something that is just fleeting. You wake up one day, you have a low mood. Like I mentioned, you wake up one day, you have a runny nose, a headache. You just know, I need to rest today. You wake up with a low mood. I just need to take some time out, do something that is I like to do. But this is when it goes on for a long time and affects your everyday life. You can feel hopeless, despairing, guilty, worthless, unmotivated, and exhausted, and it affects self-esteem, sleep, appetite, sex drive, physical health. In its mildest form, someone can be depressed and still leading a normal life, but just everything seems harder. And then at its most severe, depression can make you feel suicidal. It can be life-threatening. Then we have eating problems, eating disorders. Is also considered a mental illness, actually. So this is where someone doesn't want to eat, or someone overeats, or someone is eating and making themselves ill. The most common eating disorder diagnoses are anorexia, bulimia, binge eating, and so on. Schizophrenia. Now, this is the one that the media industry loves. Schizophrenia is the mental illness that you'll see in movies, you will see in our soap operas, you will see in dramas, you will see in home videos. The person that they would just say is mad, the person that has schizophrenia. And, as I said earlier, 90% of people with a mental illness feel stigma in that they are looked at differently. And it's because of this kind of media portrayal of schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is not a split personality. Schizophrenia is not dangerous when it is managed. Someone can live with schizophrenia, be on their medication, and they are absolutely fine living a normal life like you and I. So, I recently was counseling a young girl in her 20s and I've been counseling her for about 6 months. And, with different things that were coming up. And then she went to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist said, you have schizophrenia. And she's, the young girl is from Nigeria, whose parents don't believe mental illness exists. And she was going to have to pay for treatment and so on. And she was just, she was in her own person, she was happy that at least it's been given a name and there's a treatment for it. But it was everyone around her began to change the way they were behaving towards her. And, so that is something that we have to be careful of, that when someone has a diagnosis, we need to not see physical sickness as different to psychological illness, because when the person receives treatment, they will recover from it. So moving on to finish this list, and we're going to go on a short break. We have what is known as phobias. A phobia is an extreme form of fear or anxiety triggered by a particular situation. There's a list of phobias as long as your arm. People can be afraid of all sorts of things. But it's not just like when I see a spider, I run out of the room. It's, when I described before about having a panic attack, very anxious, that is what, and the person will need counseling to help with that. Obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, is often misused in daily conversation. So today is all about raising awareness. So when we say in our workplace, Peter is a bit OCD, because he likes things neat and tidy. that is not the correct use of the word OCD, because OCD is more than that. So OCD has two main parts. Number one is obsessions, which is unwelcome thoughts. It's not just that they want to be clean. They have thoughts that will in their mind, they are hearing voices that is telling them that if you don't clean that, somebody in your family will die. And they believe it. They are convinced of it. It's unwelcome thoughts, worries, and doubts that repeatedly appear in their mind. And then compulsions as a result, repetitive activities can often be numbers. If I count to 100, all my family will still be alive when I come home. If I tap the door 10 times as I lock it, burglars will not come in. So there are compulsions that they do. Bipolar disorder is known as once called manic depression. And it means that there are times when you are really, really, really hyper excited and other times of really, really, really low. Personality disorders and PTSD.